Can make the song about a seven Gables anytime he ain't gonna cross that fence.
Does he? All right. Remember, folks, if it ain't weird, it ain't here.
Try to be the first one in the building.
Ooh, something haunted. Let me go.
Look at that creepy thing over there. Let's go find it.
Did something move over there? Yep. Well, we're going that way. It's kind of our thing.
Well, you can go have fun with that, sir.
We are the Weird Boys.
Oh, we are 100% professionals.
I'm Ryan. I am joined by Kyle Lefty Beard.
Before you guys went out, I decided to do a little bit of research at failure.
And Ricky, master of all things horror Bosma.
I know a few things.
So, boys.
What would you like to talk about?
Recently we went out and we did our another great episode live on scene.
Yep.
Seven Gables.
Good times.
Good times. Good times.
Wish I would have been there. Wish you would have been too.
I think it would have been great if you could have been there. Seven Gables, one of the most haunted places on Michigan. It's kind of why we were kind of excited to pick out a day and go out there. And again, it's one of those things where I'm not going to say we didn't encounter anything.
We had some interesting happenings.
And if a singularity of one of those happened, I could probably explain it away. Any one of the things on our list of many, which we'll get into, I could explain away. Minus one. But when you put them in the time frame they happened, in the amount they happened, you're done. Like, it's
no longer coincidence.
Yeah. And but before we get into all that, Kyle, you had found the history and some stories to go along with that.
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go along with you guys on the trip. But before you guys went out, I decided to do a little bit of research, and well, when I was looking around, I found quite a few interesting things. Like I found the basic legend of it. The Witch of the Seven Gables, and it's like, oh, there's a cursed witch of the land, or curse the land, and the last one to cross the gate. If you hear a woman scream, you're either doomed to die or going to die or whatever. But I found some different ones too. I found where they actually had rattlesnake infestations out there, and with there being multiple foundations that were out on the land, it would have been a pretty decent explanation as to why everybody got up and went. But then again, cursed land, rattlesnakes,
Right.
like that would, I wouldn't want to be around either.
And like we talked too about snakes being a symbol of witchcraft in some instances, and it could be could go either way. You have a huge natural land area. Okay, this happens to be where there's a giant infestation of snakes. Well, again, early settlers being superstitious and whatnot, like, oh yeah, our area's just magically like infested with snakes. We've been farming here for 50 years, but all of a sudden, snaking.
And there's another story where I believe it was the family moved in after, and
25 years.
yeah, like they moved in after, and Dad went crazy, killed the family, hung him from the Gables, killed himself, and then burned down the house.
How did he kill himself and burn down the house?
Well, he killed. I could think of about 10 ways on how he could kill himself and burn down the house at the same time, but that's not why we're here.
All of which we investigate. Is that, hey,
Yeah.
he burned down the house after he killed himself. Anyway.
There's also a point to the Seven Gables story where if you're the last one over the fence, you are doomed to die.
Which we also talked about when they go into the debunking stories. If you're being chased out by a bobcat or a mountain lion, and you are the last one over the fence, you are true. That is correct, that you are the last one to die. And
No, you're the first one to die.
back to the original point, you were saying
one area that I found online, they kind of asked for user submissions, and people that actually lived in the area, they wanted to actually hear their story or their sides of it. So there was one where the reader submitted, at the end of the Seven Gables Road, found off of, the Dexter Trail in Meridian, there's a gate that leads to an old home, said to have been burned down with the family of 6 hung by the gables of the house. The killer then killed himself and set fire to the house. A young girl is said to be playing in the trees. It is also said that someone was mysteriously choked by a force unseen. Many have also drowned there due to the hidden lake that is on the way to the ruins of the home. So it's like, you see these guys that submit these types of stories, and it's like, I wonder where or I can't imagine where any of these, stories or legends could be brought by,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
On our way there, my phone died, and it was plugged in the whole time. And I definitely was not going to be out in the middle of the woods without
Yeah.
some kind of emergency GPS. But then it was like, once we got close, and we're like, oh no, let's go this way, let's go this way. And you're like, no, I'm pretty sure it's the other way. And I'm like, no, we're insane. Like, I swear we've gone past the road. But then,
Yeah.
like, boom, as soon as we got close, GPS turned on. And to me, that was kind of one of those signs that we're like, it wanted us to be out there.
Yeah, we had a good time out there. It was
But one of the things I found most interesting, and even going back in the pictures now, you can kind of see it, but you kind of don't. And you kind of had pointed it out first, but then you were like, I think you had that same, like, almost confirmation bias that I did,
right.
that you were trying not to point out the shadows we saw.
Well, yeah, because then if you say it to me, then I've already seen it. Then I can put validation to it.
Right, and like, I had the same thing in a few of mine where I'm like, what the hell is that? And then afterwards, I'm like, man, this is pointing right at that tree we saw.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing I can't explain what happened. Again, we've got high quality cameras for the most part. They're not cheap.
No.
And it points down the path and boom, there's a shadow in it.
Right.
And then, okay, pick it up on cameras, maybe that's one thing, whatever. But then when we both walked by the trees in the triangle, and we just kind of stopped and were like, and then you just, oh good, you see it too.
Right.
Like, that was just a, yep. The other part I really found interesting when you're talking about how just beautiful it is out there.
Yeah.
We found that circle.
Yeah, that's when things really started to, like, pick up, if you would. You got down there, you started hearing the giant tree creaking, cracking, which is pretty standard for woods. But it's interesting that when you get closer to it, it seems like it gets so much more loud. Not just a little bit like you would as obviously by getting closer to something, but just how it kind of reacted to us being there.
Yeah, it seemed to get louder as we got closer to the back, which at one point you had said, oh man, there's got to be a hunter or something.
Right.
And I mean, we stopped for a good 5-10 minutes to look around to see, man, I don't see anything.
Right. I mean, it wasn't just a simple crack. I mean, this was heavy noise.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I wouldn't have called it rhythmic, but I mean, it definitely almost had a pattern to it.
Yeah.
But then, once we got back to the other side of the circle, and it stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we both just looked at each other like, no, there's no way.
Right. I mean, you're within 20 foot of this tree.
And like the wind's still going, everything else that would normally cause a tree creak, like, and you're like, no, there's no way. It's got to be some kind of alarm,
Yeah.
or, whatever.
It'd be like a lure.
Could
Yeah.
be.
But it was when we got close to that
Siren
archway,
song.
Yeah.
and then we had like, oh yeah, the bag open, and which I mean we've talked about before too. Energy you bring into a place, the thought process you bring into a place, is very big, a big part of it. Like, we're not going out there to debunk it.
No.
We walk in with just this, all right, let's see what's out here.
Right. I have no preconceived notion that I'm going to see something or I'm not going to see something or hear something, whatever. Like, I never go into a place thinking that's what's going to happen.
And I think we both kind of had that, like, I could feel not on, I was on edge, but it wasn't like I was in danger. It was kind of just like a heightened senses.
Yeah, almost like a. God damn it. Almost like a. Damn it. What do you call it? See, now I lost my fucking train of thought.
Spidey sense.
Almost, but intuition.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what kind of led to our, our positive experience out there is we weren't like going to play big and bad. We weren't going to be all tough guy out there.
No. I mean, it's fine to interact with things, but you don't want to go out there with the attitude that you have the ability to control the situation, because sometimes you don't.
Right. And, when we go into that, like, Call of the Nature and stuff like that, or Call of the Wild.
Oh.
We're calling it the Call of the Wild. But
Spirit of the Wild. Or something.
spirit of the wilderness and those kind of nature spirits things, they're gonna let you puff up your chest to a point, and then you're gonna get put in your place real quick.
Yeah.
Like, and just when you think, okay, there's nothing out there, whatever, like, oh, this is all horseshit, this, that, the other, boom, you're gonna get smacked with something.
Right.
Like, I 100% believe that.
Being respectful is very important.
And, I mean, we go back to Asylum Lake, too. Like, we walk around there, okay, we're looking for something specific, and we couldn't find it.
Right.
But when we were just walking around, we got more of the feeling. And I think if we would have stayed a little bit longer out there, maybe we would have gotten a little bit more Oregon, different time of day.
Right.
But then you cross again that threshold, which I find interesting. Because it's like, okay, if there's someplace haunting something, what's so special about that? Well, yeah, it's an iron gate. But what's so special about this gateway?
Yeah, I mean, it has history. It has plenty of rumors and whatnots that go along with it from people that have been there and experienced different things. But me personally, when we went out there, I wasn't expecting anything other than a good time. And we had that, but the biggest thing about it is the feelings that you get when you go into places. It's almost like a pressure.
Right.
When you first start to do things. And then as you get there and you get comfortable with the surroundings and realize what you're really out there to do, then you just kind of relax and things get a lot easier. And maybe that was the case out there. But it was just interesting to me, the responses that we were getting, because it's not like we were just standing there walking down a path. The more we interacted, the more responses we got.
And I think, again, we got a lot towards the beginning, but once we got to the swamp, which is around the area where I think the foundation was supposed to be, or something like that, from what I've heard, or where a lot of people started getting into it, that's when we saw the snake.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, well, that's cute. That's, cool.
Yeah, nice touch.
Boom.
And
What
here comes
else you
another.
got?
You're right.
Oh, why is my hand going to go numb and turn all red as we're trying to turn around and leave? All right, like, this is far enough. Let's turn around and leave. Rick, I can't feel my hand. It was all red.
Right.
And then, boom, deer.
Deer, like in my back pocket.
Yeah. And I was probably 5 feet behind you. And I did not see that thing there. And then I look up, and it's like, and I had my camera going, and it was like, okay, that was not there a second ago. And I look back at the footage, deer's not on the camera.
Right. It's just impressive to me that you can be so close to something like that and not notice it.
Or it noticed you.
Right. Or even care that each other are there.
And then, not even a minute after that, boom, tree. Which was real, like,
Over
I
the
got
top.
you. All right.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to pull out the big toys today. And
What happened with the tree?
it was like, well, it was just that back to back to back where it was like, okay, you had the snake, the deer, my hand. Okay, all right. And then all of a sudden, this tree, probably, I don't even know, 5 foot around,
Yeah.
just snaps in half and falls.
40, 50-foot section, not tiny pieces.
And yeah, the wind's blowing, trees fall apart all the time, but like, the wind was completely dead at that point, and it was right after we saw the deer, and I mean, it wasn't exactly on the path we were walking, but it was close enough to where we probably would have pooped ourselves.
I would have left the puddle.
Yeah.
I mean, it was scary enough as it was. Just
If
for
we were anywhere closer than that, than we were.
yeah, because I mean, it could have went any direction
And it just so happened to be like,
away from us.
the deer, that's a nice enough touch. What else you got? Got a Ricky's mouth.
Right.
And, and it was funny because I had my camera pointing at it. And I was like, push go. Push go. Why am I not pushing record on this thing?
Another interesting thing for me about the deer is we probably seen 6 or 7 tree stands.
Yeah.
So these deer have seen humans,
Yeah.
and know that they potentially could be a threat to them.
Well, and obviously the Cloverfield, where
Right.
we walk through and there's fist-sized piles of scat
Yeah.
all over the place.
I mean, these deer have human interaction quite a bit out there, I would think, between people going out there walking, whatever it is.
Yeah, and the dogs that
Yeah.
somehow circled their way around us.
That was
But we didn't see on the pathway on the way out there. But hey. And then obviously we got our stone.
Yep.
On the way out, which was kind of like it looked like foundation piece, and we went down and grabbed it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to take something with us. And then it was like, just stop it for a second, and as we started to walk away, it was like, no. You know what? This was out like in the middle of the path, right there for us.
yeah.
But then again, on the way out too, like, we had the birds.
On the drive home, that was pretty interesting. There was so many of them. I mean, it was probably 200-300 of them. Probably. What kind of bird was that?
They're 100% crows, or grackle.
Grackle.
All right.
And the blackbird in general obviously has its legends and myths around us, whether it be it raven, crow, or that kind of scavenger. It is the farrier of the souls.
Yeah.
It was just interesting the way they were reacting with the car, where they would kind of stop, block the driveway, so I didn't want to pull forward and get the car hit.
Right.
And then we'd pull forward a little bit, they'd move, all flock off to the left, and then reform on the road. And then eventually, 3 or 4 times later, they took off.
Yep.
But it was right after that, we started turning, and boom, that's when all those crosses were there.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell those roads out there are pretty treacherous.
And, which again, I kind of laid back to, okay, you go in there with that mindset of the legend, this, that, the other. You hear the screams, which could be bobcat or whatever else. You're, let's say, inebriated on some sort, or even tired. And so you freak out, you try to drive home around those words, and you're speeding home, this, that, the other. Boom, car accident. I mean,
Yeah, they're thin roads. They're not your normal double wide that you would see here in the state.
And but you were telling me too about some of the people that debunk this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the farmers originally move out. Well, that's because of a rattlesnake infestation. Well, all of a sudden, a rattlesnake infestation, right around the time the witch quote unquote cursed this land.
Right.
Or again, the one the Boy Scout one.
Well, I mean, there was a guy that, he grew up in the area, and he said that he used to travel or their Boy Scouts used to camp in that. So there were Boy Scouts that used to camp that reservation out there all the time, and he, used to go out and bring alcohol out to them, but he said, there wasn't really much out there. It was just because he was the local around the area. He had ghost stories to tell about his hometown. So,
But a person going out there and telling a group of Boy Scouts when they're camping stories.
yeah, but you as Boy Scout, you hear a story and you told somebody else, right?
Right, but I can't
And if that
imagine
person told
one
somebody
person
else.
started this legend. And
No, I don't think
everything
one
else.
person started it.
You just think maybe all the locals
Yes.
kept doing this, which I could see. And he explained kind of the woman screaming with the bobcat noise, which we will play here for you. And yeah, and I listened to this, and that's creepy sounding, and I could definitely see where, okay, there's a woman screaming in the woods, and you could hear that,
Yeah.
especially if that was passing through the trees or anything else. And I mean, we'll definitely be going back out there because there's so much property to record and see, and obviously we're dragging Kyle's butt out there.
At least once.
Maybe with the Ouija board. Talk to the spirit up there. But all right, thanks all for chiming in today. Make sure to check out our Facebook, our YouTube, and we are now on Buzzsprout, which puts us onto Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcast listening places. Once again, I'm Ryan.
Lefty.
And I'm Rick.
Stay weird.
Stay weird.